through the knobs on the set screws.
Ouch. Yeah, you gotta be careful, man. Jim, did you say something? What'd you say, Jim?
I said I'm gonna get a glass of chocolate milk.
Dude, let me just say, I love chocolate milk. I'm a chocolate milk fan, but I don't drink it that much because I just can't stop drinking it, so I don't buy the chocolate anymore.
Yeah, it becomes a wild night over there at W3MMR House when the chocolate milk flows freely. You gotta watch out.
Right.
Strawberry quick.
No, man, no strawberry. Can't do it.
How about this? That's why I grow them, Perry. The big garden is now all strawberries. I love strawberries.
How about the straws with the artificial flavor thing in the middle, so that you put it in regular milk and you get flavored milk in your mouth.
Yeah, it's full of aspartame. Yuck.
I only use crazy straws.
Man, I'd imagine that...
The milk, too. They were easy to find on 23rd Street in Long Island City, but not so much in Winter, PA.
Oh, there's Mike. Hi, Mike, if that's Mike out there.
Yes, it is. Is that Perry?
This is him. This B.I.
Howdy. Long time no talk. Yeah, it's just been busy here. You know, we're busy taking over the world, small countries, other businesses, and stuff like that. So I've been a little otherwise occupied. But winter's coming, so I plan to fully engage on the radio again.
Attaboy, Mike. Well, welcome back. Good to hear you. Big signal, as always. Always a pleasure. There's a whole bunch of us in here, so... George, are you still in there?
I am. I switched over to my rice box, but I am still in here.
Hey, by the way, quick public service announcement. If Mike K3FEF is on frequency, Tanya is not far away, so keep it clean, folks. Keep it clean.
And hi to Tanya, if that's Tanya out there.
No, it's okay. She's right, hun?
You don't have to say that. Just follow your business. Whatever you guys are saying, fine with me.
She's perfectly good with that. And by the way, you know, we were just discussing Yoo-Hoo. Did you know that Yoo-Hoo comes complete with vitamin H? I said that one day, and Tanya said, what the heck is vitamin H? I said, no. Vitamin H used to exist, and that's what Yoo-Hoo is good at, but they don't call it vitamin H anymore. Now it's one of the B complex numbers. Anyway, just thought I'd point that out. K3FEF.
Hey, Tanya, over you, Peruski, Dobry Village.
I want to hear what the WB1 station is that is trying to check in.
Tanya says, "Yet dobra."
Oh, wait a minute. WB1ELU has a sweet comment for Tanya. Say that one more time to make sure she heard it.
Hey, Jeff, W1IA, good to hear you.
All right, my synchronous AM detector was squealing like a pig because he's a little bit north of us. Could somebody relay?
Yeah, the ELU station, 0 beat, 0 beat, 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 beat. We're used to being beaten senseless. 0 beat us here on 3873 and make Mike's receiver happy.
Hey, Perry, no email. Maybe it's too big?
Nah, it's Facebook Messenger.
Oh, duh. Thanks.
Mike, he was asking if the squeal like a pig went away.
Yes, I can see his carrier spot on right now, but he's still really kind of way down there, so I'm having a hard time getting a copy on him.
You know, last time I heard the expression squeal and ham and all that stuff was with the Spank Tank at, what was it, Nearfest 2 years ago, when Secretia was up there, with the ham radio operators who were brought up onto the Spank Tank stage in front of the others, and she's there with her black leather outfit and the paddle, and the ham radio's wrists are in the stockade, and she's saying, "Oh, you've been a bad ham. Squeal for me, you bad ham."
Was that the thing you had to chuck onto the hood for danglies?
Oh, you didn't see that? I don't think they're doing that at Nearfest anymore. But I think it was a brief attempt to get non-hams interested in Nearfest.
Non-hams.
Well, you know what? When you sort of like do a combination ham fest and BDSM exhibit, I mean, it attracts everyone.
He's non-ham. What do you mean, pork?
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll wait.
Huh?
Yeah, W3MMR.
It's like listening to a baby monitor. Have you ever done that? Did anyone do that back in the day in the 90s when all the baby monitors were on 49 megahertz? And so, no, I know no one did this, but you would set your scanner up for that little range of 49 megahertz signals, and all of a sudden you heard all kinds of stuff during the day coming from, various houses in the neighborhood. You got to hear, who was having an affair with who. Oh, it was revealed. You learned all kinds of stuff about your neighbors.
Well, a lot of the wireless phones from Radio Shack were in that same frequency, so if you had one of those realistic scanners, you got all the dirt that way.
Oh, Mike, it got better than that. Not only was there so much activity from the cordless phones on 49 megahertz, I went out to Radio Shack and I got their DTMF decoder chip, built a circuit for that, and connected it to a financial calculator. It was a calculator that really wasn't working anymore, but it had 12 digits, or no, was it 12 or 16? It was a really long phospholuminescent display, and I hooked up the DTMF chip to the calculator, and I put that on my scanner, so it would go through all the cordless phone frequencies, and then it stopped on one, and I'm listening to it, and I hear this, "Welcome to Chase. Enter in your credit card number followed by the pound sign." So someone beep boop 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 beep boop beep, and the DTMF decoder was pressing the number keys on the calculator, and the whole thing written out. I'm like, oh my God.
One word, the Ramsey DTMF decoder. You remember Ramsey? They made these really cool electronic kits. Well, Ramsey had a DTMF decoder kit. I don't remember what year it was. It was probably 90, 91, 92. That thing was just great. And it had a big memory. I mean, it was like 64 digits, so you could scroll backwards. And not only was it good for credit cards, but it was also good to see who your neighbors were calling, so after there was a big news story, you could call their best friend and let them know you heard the whole thing.
Yeah, hello to the TSA. If that's the TSA out there, if you're curious, that's K3FEF. I'm just saying.
Way cool. I like that the DTMF decoder is a real power tool.
And by the way, Ramsey made FM pirate transmitter kits too. Hey, not that I bought any.
Tanya's laughing behind me. I have the FM stereo, the AM. I was a big Ramsey fan.
That's out of Ramsey, New Jersey.
I think so, because I know they used to show up real quick. They stopped sending out catalogs a while ago, and I still keep some of them downstairs just for posterity. But they had all these cool electronics kits, like all sorts of weird stuff. And, little pirate transmitters. And being in New York City, it was great. I could get the FM one, the FM stereo one, when with a small dipole up on the roof, you could hit a quarter of Manhattan with that thing.
Isn't that great? It's like being on a college campus. That I would know. You put out, a fraction of a watt, and you've got thousands of potential listeners. Man, the efficiency was fantastic.
Eyeballs, baby, eyeballs. Oh, one QAR for license preservation.
Yeah, W3MMR.
Well, nothing I've been discussing is good for license preservation, but the statute of limitations are over, so in that case, N1 BCG.
N2LJ.
And K3FEF.
K1 KBW. It's been another session of the chloroform there.
Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, good evening, guys. I'm on the Piss Week 10 Feta.
Yeah, you're like 60 over.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's for some reason the big rig there lost modulation. Something wrong with the modulator.
This one sounds clean. Yes, I knew something was wrong with the other one, dude, because your audio didn't sound anything like it did, and it was it almost was muffly, and it was weird. It didn't sound clean, but you're back to normal now, Bob.
Yeah, this rig's very clean. The only thing is I can't adjust the negative peak limiter on it because for some reason my modulation monitor crapped out.
Yeah, but Perry's right. It does sound clean. And by the way, your ears must be burning because about, 10 minutes ago, I talked about how you taught me to properly tap an aluminum heatsink.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful with them because when you break a tap off, you're screwed.
But I know how to do it right now.
Oh, there you go. So this thing is modulating all right, because I can't bring up my modulation monitor. I can't adjust. This one's got a negative peak limiter in it, and I can't adjust it because my modulation monitor ain't working.
Sounds fine.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah, I haven't heard you sound this good in a very long time.
Yeah, this rig is, it's a little 10 Feta, but it's a PDM rig. I wound the PDM coils on those ferrite cores. Anyway, this rig came out nice. It's just, just don't put out a whole heck of a lot of power. But, it does okay.
I installed a CD antenna.
It's putting out enough to make you 40 over, Bob, so you're doing fine. I've only put out 150 watts, so you want to talk about, no power. I'm putting out no power.
Yeah, this one's doing about 300.
Whoa, Perry, so what's the 150? You're like 25 over here.
I'm just running the amplifier a little lighter. I was running this AL80B at like 200 watts for the longest time ever. And one of the tube went soft. I put another tube in it, so I'm kind of trying to run things conservative and see if anybody notices it.
Nobody without lab equipment is going to detect the difference between 150 and 200 watts.
That's what I figured, so gives me a little more headroom. If I want to buzzer, I can. Because an AL80B at a single 500Z at 200 watts a carrier for like 6 minutes or 7 minutes. It doesn't really like it.
Get on that DX100. Sounds the same.
I know. It's in the other room. I was on it this morning. Or was it yesterday morning? I talked to Jim on it the other morning for like 2.5 hours. Gave it a good workout. I just got to get my Ranger fixed, and I'm not getting into it on the air. It's too much of a nightmare.
Oh, those Rangers are awesome.
Not this one.
Well, you can always PM or call.
Is that the one that he had carried up to Clark?
Yeah, it's that one. It was working good until I blew it up. It's all nobody's fault but mine, or the shunt resistor for the grid current. But yeah, it grenaded, and it's acting very funny now. And it's very it's a long explanation on what it's doing, so I'll call you, Clark. But it's something with in the modulation section, something with the 12AU7. From there on, if I take the 12AU7 out, it stops doing what it's doing. But voltages, resistances, everything's fine. I went over everything in this thing 50 times. So I'll call you one day about it, Clark, but it ain't going to be today.
Yeah, Bob, that's the Trains, Planes, and Automobiles Ranger.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the story. I'm never going to forget that, man. That whole deal with you getting it first, Bob, and then Bob to Clark, and then Clark in the airplane, and getting in it, like literally walking out on the tarmac and getting a Ranger, 2 Rangers out of the plane. It was definitely fun.
That was fun. Airmail delivery of ham gear.
And you went back with the board.
Oh boy.
And then he flew in here, and I gave him what the hell you call them things? Yeah.
It's called a Behringer, a 16-channel Behringer mixer.
There you go, mixer. Yeah, there you go.
That's a big one.
Hey, Bobby.
Hey, Tina. Yeah, that is a big one. Yeah, it's too big for my station, and I didn't have any use for it, so I would give it to a good home.
How great is this guy? I mean, really.
Telling you, it's good to have good friends, man. You know, the ham fairy, the whatever you want to call it, Santa fairy, Santa ham.
Oh no, ham fairy is the common term.
I missed that.
Yeah, ham fairy. That actually started with who was that? Who was the guy? Bob may remember. He was years ago. He was in New York State somewhere, and I needed an oscilloscope probe. Was it not DUQ? Was it DUQ? I forget his name. He's a silent key now, but he was on frequency, and he goes, well, I've got an oscilloscope probe, and I'm like, all right, we'll have to, buy it from you sometime. You can put it in the mail. He goes, no, I'll drive down now. I'll meet you in White Plains, and I'll just give it to you. And what a great guy. Yeah, he ended up having an enormous collection of ham gear, but he was the nicest guy, and we did meet. And then it was so easy. I picked up the oscilloscope probe and got back on the air and rejoined the QSO. That's how fast that was. But that was what was it, Bob? Do you remember who that was? The original ham furry, the guy who came down from upstate New York and gave me the oscilloscope probe.
I don't think it was Bill I Fart Raisins, because he wasn't a nice guy.
No, it wasn't him. It was DUQ. DUQ. Who was that?
DUQ. He's not silent key.
Oh boy, then I'm thinking of the wrong person. Anyway, he had an enormous collection of ham gear. His wife, I'm trying to remember her name, his YL. Well, anyway, no, it was not IFR, and it was not Donut Hole University. I thought it was DUQ. I guess I got it wrong.
DUQ?
Yeah, DUQ, that's right. DUQ is silent key. That's Uncle Willie.
I thought, didn't he live in, I wasn't around, I thought Timmy said he lived in Pennsylvania, because I came across one of his transmitters that like an Amish guy had. It's like they found it in the dump. And I still know where it is.
Maybe it was IBX. Joe. DUQ is a silent key, though. He's Uncle Willie, but so is IBX. It might have been Joe IBX.
I don't know. DUQ is more. It's more familiar. I don't know. Well, anyway, whoever it was that drove down, south and gave me the oscilloscope probe, that sort of started the whole hand ferry concept.
I swear I've got some DUQ stuff down in the basement here, like with the call sign and Dymo tape on the front. But yeah, ham ferry, I immediately think back to my younger days when I used to leave burnt out fets underneath the pillow and wake up and there would be dollar bills there.
Yeah, the W3DUQ lived in Honeybrook, PA, and that's Mike. That's what this transmitter my buddy's got. It's all gutted now, but it like you said, a little placard right on the front, man.
I literally am going downstairs because I'm 90% certain that call sign is on like 3 or 4 transmitters downstairs. I gotta take a look.
K1 QAR.
W3
1IA.
W3 MMR.
K1 KBW.
There's no signals under 40 over.
What's up with that?
In a S1 noise floor. Shh, quiet.
Yeah, we're having the library net. No one talk. N1 BCG.
My noise floor is an S9, Brent, and everybody's like 40 over. So it's the joys of living where I live.
Yeah, well, my noise floor is hardwood.
What the hell, Perry? Is there... with the equipment you have, I'm just surprised. Can you do diversity receive cancellation at all?
Yeah, I can, but that's just the noise floor here. It is. It's just the ambient floor. It's not just one single source. There's some single sources that come in that are stronger, that are more, that are 15 over S9, but there was that's why I bought in my neighbor a TV, because the interference was from I was using diversity on that for the longest time. Then I just got fed up with it and said, to hell with it, I'll just buy you a television. But there's really nothing I can do about it. If I go to my dad's, he lives in the middle of nowhere and completely flat, noise floor, and his is about an S6 on the same radio. So, yeah, there you go.
All right, let's not sugarcoat this. Brent, Perry lives in South Philadelphia. Every single one of his neighbors has a grow light. There, I said it.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I didn't even think of that, Clark, but that sodium light. Worse is laptop switching supplies. Yeah.
Well, see, if you were to go on right now, you could see the power line noise that just came in. I got power line noise that comes in every now and then. Yeah, it's always something here, and I got tired of it. I'm used to it now. Everybody I talk to is, super loud. I can hear the guys I talk to in the morning, down south that are down at the noise, and it works. But if it gets really bad, I'll use WebSDR. That's what I did for a while. I used WebSDR as my main receiver for probably almost 6 months.
Good call. Catch you later. N2LJL.
See you, George.
73.
See you, George.
That's later, George.
Perry, Keith has got an obnoxious noise floor, and we tried to DF it in the neighborhood, make sure I got it, and we couldn't find it. We think it's a mill with a heater, one of those industrial drying ovens, but it's constant. And I'm going to bring over the SDR Play and hook it up. He's dyed in the wool with 2 receivers and a Watkins Johnson, and none of that stuff has got any kind of noise cancellation worth a damn in it. So I don't know. If the signals aren't really strong, he can't get on 160.
I don't know. I know this thing is set up, for With 50 microvolts at S9, minus 73 dBm. It's perfectly calibrated, the S meter, but I know the S meter on these SDRs works a little bit different. Like it's obviously dependent on bandwidth and the algorithms in here, so I know it reads a little higher. Like this reads a little higher than, say, my National, which is calibrated. That reads like an S8. But I'll usually set that to the RF gain to about an S1. And you guys are generally anywhere from S9 to 20 over S9, so I still have a pretty good signal to noise ratio. I don't know. I don't find it a problem. It's S9 noise floors, it might be loud, but I don't know. I usually hear mostly everybody.
Speaking of noise floors, I never really use the MP on CW. Excuse me. The IBT function, I forget what they call it, but anyway, you can shift the widths and the shift and width on these controls, and when I set it up right with narrow, signals just pop up out of the nothing, and I was using that constantly on CW. 40s was pretty quiet last night, but anyway, enough of that. W1I.
I got an S9 noise floor also, Perry, K2STP.
Yeah, it's I don't know, like when my dad, he told me he lived literally in this neighborhood 6 blocks the other way, 30 years before he moved to where he's at now, and he just thought this how the noise floor in HF was. He always used the noise blanker, it's just until he moved out there and realized how quiet it could be, but I don't mind. I got used to it. I'm used to it, Like I said, a lot of the times, I hear pretty much everybody else hears, and if somebody else can hear someone and I can't hear them and they're close to me and they live out in the country or something, I know that I'm not going to be able to hear them because of where I'm at. So I just, I take it for what it is, and hopefully one day I'll move somewhere where the noise floor is an S9. W3 MMR.
In other words, I have a noise floor of about S6, anywhere from S6 to S7 here in Milford, PA, and I don't run any noise reduction, noise blankers, or anything. I would rather try to pull somebody out of the mud than reduce the noise between transmissions, because honestly, all you guys sound great coming in over here. So I don't see the point of it. K3FES.
Yeah, yeah, well, and also I guess it comes down to signal to noise ratio and how well you can, how strong everybody is, and I guess that's the ultimate be all end all. But yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I like pulling people out of the mud, man. I enjoy it, trying to utilize this receiver for all it's worth. But listen, guys, I gotta run because my son's flying in at 7:30. He'll be here at 7:30 tomorrow morning. 7:42 his flight lands, and my vacation has started. So I got the next 5 days off of work. So I got some things I gotta tidy up here at the humble abode, humble whatever you say, at the house, the QTH, Clark, destinated here at the QTH, and so we're gonna take care of that, turn the receiver up, listen out, and get things ready for the big day tomorrow. We'll catch you guys later. It's been fun, but I gotta run. W3 MMR.
Yeah, very good hearing you. Creams for destination. And by the way, before you go, I just thought I should mention that someone had commented in the 3873 mailbag that the K3 FEF station has a signal wide as a big bottomed cow.
See you guys later, Mike, Brent, Scott, Ted. I know I'm forgetting somebody. Georges might be still out there listening from the dinner table. We'll catch you guys later. W3 MMR.
longest speech than you get at the
I don't know
Grammys.
who asked the question, but somebody asked what is the linear to the left of me at my station. So the big thing is a 24 FET E-rig, but closer in the black rack. That's my Flex 6500, and higher up on the shelf is an Ameritron AL80B linear, and then above that is a Paltron AT4K tuner. So the black rack is sort of my go anywhere rig, do anything, and the E-rig is really just for 80-160.
Yeah, W1IA. Thanks, Mike. I thought it looked like an E-rig, but it also looks a lot like my linear. So, yeah, I should have figured that out with the 4 current meters. And I have a big Variac. I actually have a Variac on the E-rig too. So it looks nice. Nice job with the layout.
Thank you, but I can't take the credit for it. That was actually built by WA1SSJ. I bought the whole setup from him. He did a beautiful job and gave me a very nice detailed walkthrough on, maintaining, repairs, how it works, where everything is. And he gave me this really old beat up rack. And I said, you know what, I'll take it. And I sent it to my friend's automotive shop, and they matched the paint on the faceplates to the rack and did a high gloss 2 clear coat finish on it, and it came out absolutely beautiful. So of course that's my showpiece here. K3FEF.
Yeah, it's nice. I should take the time. I've been threatening to build another transmitter, another Class E rig, a desktop. I want to shrink the filters and all that stuff. So I got almost all the parts in the other room, but I got so many projects ahead of it. But I got to take a little more time on my, my paint. I build stuff and I never paint it. And now that I have a shop where I can do automotive painting, I'm going to start doing it.
Yeah, paint is really the finishing touch. I mean, it'll make anything look beautiful. And I just thought you mentioned Variac. I love having the Variac on here because I can dial it down. I don't run this thing at full scrot for sure, and it helps a lot. And I can run it at half phase and only pick up 120 volts if I want for tuning. Dial the Variac down, puts out very low power, or I could run it full 220. And, again, still dial it in on the Variac to get the power where I want it to be. I certainly don't want to stress the whole system all the time, so I generally run pretty low on it. And it does just fine. But, where am I right now? I'm about 60 on the Variac, and it's, I don't hear any complaints, so I'm perfectly good with it.
See that? He's like a third world dictator with nukes, but responsibility also.
Yeah. You can't hurt those transmitters. I run low power depending on what I'm doing at night. I turn up the wick, but you won't break it. I promise you that. They're really tough.
Oh yeah, no, I'm more worried about everything on the way out the door. I've got my bird meter, I've got a crappy MFJ power meter that shows me SWR, I've got my old Kenwood SM220 station monitor that, shows me my modulation depth. So there's a lot of jumper cables in here, and then it goes out through an Antenna Genius switcher, which, they say the relays are good on that, but I don't really trust it. So I throttle things back when I can, and as long as everybody can hear me, and I usually check in on some of the New England WebSDRs just to see how I sound. If I'm getting in over there, I'm perfectly happy.
Yeah, you had some strange noise on your signal when you unkeyed. It was strange. Do you hear that, Clark?
I wasn't paying attention as usual.
I'll bet you I know what that is, actually. So, I did a few changes today, and I'm running through a Yamaha mixer. Let's see, hold on a second. Everything right? Give me a second, bear with me.
There's space for rent.
No, everything seems okay. It's probably the microphone cable going into the mixer, if I had to guess, that's picking up. I'm switching a lot of relays because of the WebSDR. and that makes things difficult. The WebSDR adds complexity to all my rigs, even the 2-meter stuff. So when I unkey, I built a switch box here with time delay relays on it, and they're all like, 50, 60 milliseconds. But when I unkey, there's a brief period where there's probably still a lot of fire in the wire, and it's switching back over to receive mode.
Well, it would sound like a low-level motorboating. It was riding on your signal. I thought it was interference until you unkeyed.
Oh, I know what that is. Mike has a secondary channel of revenue. That's actually Portuguese books on tape. It's like reading for the blind service, and he runs that on a subcarrier on the signal.
Hey, quiet. We're not supposed to reveal that.
You are so weird, Clark.
But that's a good idea. I'm gonna have to brush up on my Portuguese a little bit, but we could do that.
It's true. Books on tape. Well, Mike, wasn't it like until like July that you had the Christian, Spanish Christian programming, and then the contract ended, and then you picked up on the Portuguese books on tape contract?
Yes, and we can actually do the sacraments over the air. We were doing communion regularly on Saturday nights for those that couldn't make it to church.
Wow, excrement on the air, or whatever he was talking about.
I'm starving. I'd love a couple of those crackers.
Speaking of that, I'm going to bail out for dinner. 7-3, everyone. It's been fun. W1IA.
Oh, look, we talk about religion and Brent jumps ship. How about that for an exorcism?
W1IA 73s. Have a great night. K3FEF.
Clark, I gotta tell you a funny story. Like 2 weeks ago, I turned on the radio. It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was dead. No one's on. And I keyed up and said, "Good afternoon," copying somebody I know. And I couldn't believe I never got back. About 10 guys, "Hey, Clark, hey, how you doing, Clark?" Everyone started broadcasting Clark. I couldn't even key up afterwards to say it wasn't Clark.
Yeah, imagine how scary it is being me. And I get on frequency, and I'm like, so, who's loitering on 3873? And all of a sudden, like 1 million people key up. It's weird. It's like, walking through the dark forest. You're in the woods at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and you've got a flashlight, and the batteries are like dying, and the flashlight's not even a bright white beam anymore. It's just like sort of dull. And then all of a sudden you hear a noise behind some tree off to your right, and you're like, "Who's that?" And all of a sudden you have a chorus of people saying, "Oh, nobody." Oh yeah, it makes you feel great, doesn't it?
Well, what was really funny, I listened for about 20 minutes, and the discussion went on for at least 20 minutes about how somebody heard Clark come on and say hello, and then he disappeared, and people were talking maybe something happened to his equipment, and the discussion went on for a long time. I just couldn't stop laughing. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, there you go. Try being me. N1 BCG, often imitated, never duplicated.
It's very interesting, though. You could drum up a lot of people at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Every time I get up, like with heartburn or something, and get on the radio, all you got to do is key down. If you've got a clean signal, boy, oh boy, you better get the headphones on, because they call in from everywhere.
Right, but these are also the same people you wouldn't want to be driving in front of on the highway. You wouldn't want to be standing next to in line at the supermarket, and you sure as hell wouldn't want to have them driving a school bus.
I will spit my drink out, but you're absolutely right.
I'm just saying.
So, hey, do I really have a chirp at the end of my transmission? That makes me nervous.
You're like an ad for Twitter.
I'm not hearing anything.
That's because you have to have a refined ear to pick it up.
I'm like, because I can see something on the flex. I use my flex as a receiver, and of course when I key down, I see that big blast. But I can't imagine that's any real power that's getting out onto the antenna. So, I don't know. I'll check it out another day.
It's fine. It's like a Roger beep. Remember the 11-meter days?
Don't tell me it's like a Roger beep. Now I'm going into a deep panic.
Yeah, it's like you're keyed up and then K3FEF. What?
Clark, what were you saying? Why couldn't I hear it?
Oh, because only a discerning ear, like a classically trained operatic ear would notice it.
Could somebody call me?
Listen, we're dispensing insults like Pez around here. Who needs to be insulted?
King Breaks, Chief.
Oh, the what is it about 4 girlfriends and stuff?
That's right.
You know, I don't mean to jinx it, but why is it 10 of 7 and we're still allowed to talk?
Well, there's a simple answer for that.
It's the red things.
Well, I'm going to turn off the frequency in a couple of minutes, so if you got anything to say it now.
Oh, gee.
It's because the 10.7 centimeter solar radio flux is 103.
Who's that chick cackling in the background there, Jim?
Oh, that's my telephone.
Well, what is she saying?
She's saying the world is crazy.
Well, like the GPS units, why don't you change it to like Mandarin or something interesting?
You know what I'm going to do? Get ready for this.
Oh my God, I'm getting rid of the Ouija board. We brought Herb back.
What did you call that? An interval signal, right?
Yeah, an interval signal. It's what the shortwave broadcasters used to play for about 10 minutes before their broadcast would start. And it would allow, well, yeah, they would sign on 10 minutes before their scheduled time and play like a repeating musical interlude. And that enabled people to tune into their signal so that when the real broadcast started, they'd have it all tuned in. Man, now I feel like I'm watching a rerun of Lassie.
No, that was the interval signal for WEAM 1390 AM, morning sign.
Why would a broadcast station on the AM band have an interval signal? That doesn't make any sense.
I swear, Clark, every morning before they came on the air, that's what they did. They played this guy whistling that tune, and it was burned in my memory. The one I just played for you. I just whistled for you. I swear.
That would give me nightmares.
It was eerie.
Yeah, well.
Hey, Clark, how do they test the broadcast equipment on a radio station? If they use it 24/7, how the heck do they, I mean, I'm sure they got monitors and everything, but still, you want to get out and actually get a signal at some point, no?
That's right. Beginning at midnight on the last Sunday of the month, they would usually take the station off the air and transmit their test tones and stuff like that, and the engineers would be there all hopped up on extra caffeinated coffee. They have like a couple of pots of coffee brewing, and then they'd have to be done with all their testing and their what's called a proof of performance, where they take a tone generator and run it into the audio board in the studio and measure the frequency response of the transmission system. And they'd have to have it all done by 5 a.m. when the morning show, who is normally hosted by a hothead, would come in and say, "You guys are done with that engineering crap, right?" Yeah, so they'd have about 5 hours to do the testing for the station.
Yeah. They get in their car and drive a few blocks away and turn on the AM radio. That's how they do their testing.
I remember one Saturday morning I was doing the 6 to 10 show on this FM station in the area, And I got in my car to drive there, and it was about a 25, maybe about a half-hour drive there, and I couldn't get the station at my house. And as I'm getting closer on the highway, the station started to crackle in, like, oh my God, the transmitter's off. But what would happen is even if the transmitter were off, the exciter, which was about 25 watts, would get through all the circuitry of the amplifier, and it would make it out to the antenna. So you could hear it locally, but you couldn't hear it at any distance. So I got to the transmitter site, and I called this girl who was on the air from midnight to 6, and I said, hey, it's Clark. Listen, the station's off the air, and I'm at the transmitter site, and I'm working on it now. So just keep playing the hits, and I'll be in there as soon as I can. And she started to argue with me. She's like, well, I hear the station's fine, and I'm leaving at 6, so you better be in here ASAP. I'm like, no, the station's off the air. And she maintained. She's like, it's on the air. Don't BS me. Get in here. You overslept. That's the excuse. Wow, I hated her. Oh, come on. That makes a good ham radio story also.
I was waiting, but it could have been because it was you.
Well, yeah, normally women hate me no matter what I say. That's true, Mike. Yeah, there you go. Marinate on that for a bit. And one BCG.
Sorry. We were both laughing over here. You hearing that? Just saying.
Now, her thing was she thought because she could hear the station that I was saying, no, the station's actually off the air, was me just basically saying, yeah, I overslept. I'm still at home. Sorry, I'm on my way in. And that's why she got all, repugnant.
I was just thinking of something kind of unrelated, but kind of related. I've got that Gates BC1T broadcast transmitter sitting in the garage. Well, I had a big conversation with the Pike County Emergency Management Manager, the guy that's the director of it. And he actually lives over in New York, and I think he's looking to get out of the HF business, get out of emergency management, and kind of just go quietly into the night. And he asked me a lot about the Gates transmitter, and I said, well, right now it's I got the oscillator up on 75 meters, but the final tank circuit is still down in the broadcast band. He's like, well, why don't you put the whole thing back to the broadcast band and get that thing functional just in case we really need it? And I was like, all right, so if this is the Pike County Emergency Management guy telling me this, that might be kind of fun. I don't know, so I'm trying to figure out what to do with that thing out there, because it is kind of cool, and it would be fun to actually run it on its intended frequency.
Are you serious? Did they have a frequency they had in mind?
Well, no, you got to remember, we're in a really very rural area, and when things go bad, like all the translators shut down, batteries die out within a day, and the last time, like Hurricane Sandy was a great example, although even the storm we had last year was a great example. There were literally no radio stations to listen to for news. Nothing. We couldn't pick anything up out here. Now, I could, because I have my DXFM antenna up on the roof, so I could still pick up New York City. But locally, if you took out a typical battery-powered AM/FM radio, you weren't getting anything. And he was like, you know what, in an emergency, he said, no one's going to break your horns about it. He said it would be able to better to be able to get out something rather than nothing. And I was like, that'd be cool. I wouldn't mind just turning it on for emergencies when that sort of stuff happens. That would kind of actually be cool. So, yeah, so I don't know what I'm going to do with it now. I may just drop a big long wire across the property just to tune it back down, because right now it's really set up perfectly for the high end of the broadcast band, like around 1630 AM is the crystal that's in it right now. Now with a 1,000-watt carrier, it gets out pretty far, but I could switch that thing down to 250. So I don't know, something fun to think about.
Oh my God, that's interesting, because municipalities can override the FCC if there's a local emergency. a town government can basically authorize a station to do all kinds of stuff, and the FCC is okay with that. You know, I would further that. In fact, I would pick up an EAS receiver. It's Emergency Alert Systems receiver, which what it is, you connect that to an FM radio, and it picks up the emergency alert system notifications from a primary station, which basically, you know, like if there's a national emergency, thank God those never happen. But if there's other emergencies, they automatically trigger an alert. I think you should contact your local government and say, listen, I'm a licensed ham radio operator. I can get a broadcast signal on which everyone can receive with a simple AM radio. It's independent of the cell network. It's independent of the internet. It's independent of everything else. And I will make it available to emergency responders like the government officials, police chief, fire chief, whoever, as long as I have a list of names and they have a legit reason to authorize the station to go on, you promote it and say that the area has an emergency information frequency. That actually would be legit. That's amazing. And one BCG, and yes, I did say that.
Well, that's exactly what he said. It was that EAS, which is tied into the 911 comm center here, and as emergency management director, he kind of controls a lot of that up there. He said, look, if there's an emergency, we can pretty much do whatever we need. He said, so, and there's more to the story. The more to the story is he lives in New York, and I'm 5 minutes away from the 911 comm center. And he said, Mike, you would be in such a better position if an emergency happened to be able to get to the comm center and use all the equipment that's in the comm center versus me trying to get there from New York. He said, and if you have the broadcast system in the garage and you can remotely control that from the comm center, so much the better. And I'm like, yeah, well, I got all sorts of ways to do that. So it was a fun thing to toss around. And, even if I don't use it for like regular communications, even if I could say, hey, this thing's in my garage just for an emergency, that's kind of pretty cool. I'll put one of those big ARRL emergency stickers up on it. So something we're still trying to figure out, and actually we both said we got to get together after the holidays, probably in January, and talk about it all a little bit more. But he was pretty excited because he said he comes in from New York into PA because he said there's nobody that knows or understands HF in PA that he knows anyway. So I kind of reached out to him out of the blue for something else totally unrelated. I want to use his repeater. He's got a repeater up here. And we started talking, and he was like, so do you want to run EMA for Pike County? And, yeah, a lot of stuff to think about. But fun conversation for sure, and it might be something fun to do with the gates.
Hey, Clark.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I know I asked you this question once before, but I can't remember what the answer was. But does the emergency system still use AM and 640, 1240? I can't remember if those are the right, or if it was 940 and 1240. The old Conelrad system.
Yeah, Jim, I see what you're doing here. You want to see if I answer the same question twice as a test to see if I'm telling you the truth. No, Conelrad, you're right, 640 and 1240 is not used anymore. The Conelrad system back in the day, the Conelrad system was actually pre-EBS, Echo Bravo Sierra, and EBS preceded EAS, which we have now. But the Conelrad system, for folks listening, the idea there was, wow, this is very historic. The idea there is that if the United States was invaded by some other country, obviously, all the broadcast stations would go off the air except for the designated Conelrad stations, CONELARAD stations. And those stations, depending upon what their normal operating frequency was, they would either be reassigned to operate on 640 or 1240 kilohertz. And the president would have access to getting on all all of those participating stations at the same time through phone lines, in fact through AT&T long lines, which were buried, I think it was like 6 feet underground in what was considered nuclear bomb resistant cabling. And what would happen is to prevent foreign aircraft from being able to use broadcast stations to navigate, because back then they would use radio signals because they knew where the stations were. So they would be able to say, okay, this station is located here, so therefore, we're flying here. They would use them as navigational aids. The Conelrad stations, authorized on 640 and 1240, would transmit for a brief period of time, and they would sign off, and then another station on the same frequency in a different location would sign on and pick up the message where it left off. So basically, people who were listening to either 640 or 1240 would be listening to emergency communications right from the White House, but as you listened, the signal would actually be coming from different transmitters. So you would hear the whole message, but enemy aircraft would be confused if they were trying to use those for navigation, because the signal from one direction would stop and then would pick up from somewhere else. So that was the design function of the Conelrad system that Jim just brought up. N1 BCG.
You said that story really well, actually. I have a whole civil defense station set up downstairs, more for mock purposes than anything else. And I have both a Gonset and I have a Heathkit Conelrad detection system, which would have shut down a ham radio transmitter in the event of an emergency. Really cool stuff and cool history to the whole thing. And actually it was such a basic and simple system. But of course, EAS, there's many advantages to doing it the way they're doing it now, especially since AM is not so popular anymore. But yeah, the history behind all the civil defense stuff is, I love reading about it.
What's interesting, though, is that every allocation in the AM band is in use. And I realized something when I was driving through the country one night. I was way out in the middle of nowhere, and I was tuning in and listening to some AM stations, and they have commercials for truckers. They're talking about stuff for sale to folks who are out in the middle of nowhere, and they know that the only radio station that can be heard is theirs. And all their advertising is aimed right at them, farmers, truckers. The point being, when the poop hits the propeller, it's AM long wave that's going to be important, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have a little prepper group here, and we'll get together and have our little meetings and stuff. And I keep telling everybody, you gotta have a radio with AM on it, because if things go south really quick, you're going to do a lot better picking up information and news on AM than you will on FM. Because most of the big FM transmitters are based out of large cities, and if things go south, the large cities are going to be the ones that have the problems. Whereas the AM transmitters, like even in New York, right, the AM transmitters are primarily out of New Jersey, because that's where they've got the towers. So AM, gotta have an AM radio kicking around that can run on batteries. I just feel... and again, hopefully nothing bad ever happens, but I think that's still a good recommendation.
Oh, man, Mike, if you ever want to act on this, I will totally hook you up. We can get such an emergency broadcast system. And by the way, I don't think that that's outlandish at all. Because I've been without power, for hurricanes and stuff like that. All the cell towers go dead after 2 days, 3 days or something. They run out of juice. So the internet's down, and and basically, seriously, if there's no internet, how does a town government reach its population? How do you reach the people of your town if there's no internet? And and everyone's got cell phones. You don't have their cell phones, but if you actually had access, if the government, the town government, had access to an AM frequency that covered their municipal area, that's invaluable. I think that's very important, and I've been extolling that importance in here, in fact, in this area. So yeah, I am a huge believer of that. But you do need to get an EAS receiver.
Oh yeah, well I actually have an EAS receiver here. It's kind of ready to go. I mean, obviously it has no purpose, but I've got one. They're not that expensive. You can buy them used on eBay. The funny part is we have this beautiful 911 communications center. It's also the fire department emergency training center. They have a beautiful training room there with all sorts of high-tech digital whiteboards. They have a ham radio ops center in there, which is very nice, which I'm going to have a key to very soon. But they really had no way to get out to the public, and I was like, well, hey, I've got this thing sitting in my garage, and I could easily hit the whole county, if not half of Pennsylvania, and they were very interested in that. And I was going someplace with that, and I completely forget what it was. Yeah, so it's one of those things, but at the same time, I'm trying to get our little gardening club all hooked up with amateur radio, because I keep trying to explain to them, it's like, if you've got some radio skills and you're able to receive on HF and you can transmit on HF, it's so much easier to work. Every storm we've had, we lose cable, we lose internet, we lose FM, we lose cable TV. Everything's battery operated. If the batteries die out in 24 hours because there's no power, we're down hard. So, AM and HF even for the amateur radio operators in the area is great. I just got my VEC card. I'm starting to do exams over in Sussex County, New Jersey, and I'm trying to get as many of my friends licensed as possible. And the females, yes, Tanya stated. Yep, we're getting all the girls licensed too. So they're all starting out with their techs. I'm trying to get them up to their generals, and it's been fun. We've been having a good time down here trying to get that accomplished.
You know what else is bad?
I could easily see a local government allocation to buy you a 150-foot self-supporting tower. Easily can see that.
Well, from your lips to God's ears. But the fact is, he's saying that we can get the town to fund the tower. But the fact is, I've already got the tower. So the 911 Training Center has a tremendous tower, absolutely beautiful, almost brand new, and I think once I get my foot in the door, it will, and to be honest, it's like through the woods. It's not even that far. So I think once I get my foot in the door, it'll be a lot easier to kind of do various things there and experiment a little bit more. To do it right on the property would probably be pointless. I don't know. Maybe that would be something fun to try, but then again, at the same time, I've got a ton of tower stuff here. I just got to get it up in the air. And I just made good friends with a guy that's got a crane. And I've been helping him with his crane technology in terms of remote controls and going completely computer-based. So he's like, hey, when you need a crane, let me know. We'll put towers up. So I got a ton of Roan towers sitting in the back. Nice mint Roan tower. Just need some help putting it up in the air. So we're getting there. A lot of fun stuff going to happen probably next year. States are switching over to like these... like onsolve.com, right? That's a popular one. Onsolve.com, you can sign up for your county. They send out emergency messages, provided that your emergency management agency in your county subscribes to them. And it's good, but like what happens when cells go down and towers stop functioning after 24 hours? Onsolve.com is not going to be there to help you. AM radio, it'll always work.
W1BH. Right. Well, you're reading my military mind, because that's the whole reason I built this station, is I became convinced back in February this year that something's going to hit the fan pretty soon. I figure January or February coming up.
W1BDH.
W1BDH, good evening.
Yeah, is that you in there, Clark?
I've been called worse, but I'll admit it. Yes, why? I don't owe you money, right?
No, I'm the guy who sold you that PLL board. How's it going? You got Brian here on this end.
Oh, my goodness. Talking about broadcasting and ham radio together. Yes, and it's working very fine business.
All right, I just want to make sure things are still going okay. 15, whatever it was, 40, I think. Yeah, you're talking my language, AM radio, especially AM stereo. God knows I love that.
Yes, he does. And by the way, if anybody needs a PLL board, Brian who's had one on, I don't know if he's still selling it, but I bought one from Brian on eBay. And